A big warm welcome to Melissa Hoyer. Hi, Melissa.
Hello.
So, Melissa is a certified financial planner and coach at the Wealth Conservancy. Melissa offers clients a holistic blend of traditional financial planning with life and wealth coaching, helping clients to live in harmony with their finances and thrive in all areas of their life. So I'm really looking forward to diving into this conversation with you, Melissa. And I'd love to get started to hear about what led you to offer a holistic blend to financial planning.
Thank you so much, Samantha. And I would say what led me to that is the fact that where I work, we work with people who have inheritances. And so our work involves a lot of meeting together over long periods of time to help inheritors integrate with their wealth and thrive and be successful as an inheritor. So there's a lot of coaching that goes along with that. So I decided I wanted to get better at the coaching,
Mhm.
enrolled in a coaching program just to get some more skills. Then I got bit by the coaching bug, went the whole 9 yards, got certified, went through a leadership training program. And that is what led me to creating this holistic blend of financial planning. And in addition, one more thing I'll add to that is I think it's just who I am as a person. I'm very much the kind of person who wants to live in well-being and thrive in life. So I'm just being who I am in the work that I do.
Okay, so it sounds like your career is very much aligned with you personally as well.
Yes, you got it. I couldn't do it any other way, right? We spend so much time with work that I just would love for both of them to be one and the same.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely makes life easier and more enjoyable when it's that way.
Yes, exactly.
So I know that wealth can often be a difficult subject. It's not always talked about day to day. People don't always share their financial details. So do you believe that remaining anonymous around your wealth is helpful?
What I think is helpful is to be discerning because one of the challenges that inheritors face is feeling isolated because they don't want to share that information with anybody. And so it can really create this feeling of isolation. And of course, we're creatures who like to be connected. So that can cause some pain for people. So what I think is important is to be discerning and to know when it's appropriate to share, be aware of your impact, and know when you have those trusted relationships where you can just be open and be yourself.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Yeah, there's certain people that it'd be wise to share this news with, and then others where it may be more problematic.
Exactly.
So I think
Mm-hmm.
this ties in nicely with the beliefs and patterns that we can each have around finances. And I think they can all be so unique to each of us. What kind
Mm-hmm.
of challenges do you see people experience?
Well, I think of it like a an iceberg, and you know the stereotypical iceberg where you can see the tip of the iceberg, and then there's just this massive amount of the iceberg underneath the water.
Yes.
So in wealth coaching, what I try to do is like lower the water line
Mm,
so that more of the what's underneath can become um, in your awareness and your consciousness, so that you're not driven by patterns or habits or beliefs that you just don't know exist or don't know what's driving you.
mm.
And what that is for each person is so totally different. It depends on so many different factors: who you are as a person, what family you grew up in, where you grew up, what time period you grew up in. There's just so many social messages, there's so many religious messages, family messages, you name it. So everybody's going to have a really unique experience of what their habits and patterns are.
Have you got any examples you could share about these patterns or habits or beliefs that you see people perhaps get stuck in?
I use this um, assessment it's a money archetype assessment, so that it can help bring language and begin to see what's underneath the surface of the water. So that is really helpful. And I'm sharing that now because when I think of an example, I'm thinking of someone I'm working with right now who recently inherited some money. And her archetype is what an accumulator. Like accumulators love to keep their money safe. They love to accumulate, they love to track. And it's really, really difficult for an accumulator to spend any money, mm-hmm. even when it could serve them well. So she's at a point in time where she just has inherited some money and is learning and is having a challenge around allowing herself to enjoy that because she's an accumulator and it's just not natural for her. And in addition, it's really hard, even though she could be well served by hiring some people to help educate her so she can take responsibility and manage her wealth wisely. It's really, 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 really hard for her to spend money to get that kind of advice. So that's an example I'm thinking of right now of, with this archetype, when it's not completely balanced, these are some of the challenges that she's facing. And we all have them. We all have different archetypes. We can all think of situations in our own life where we, feel like we're not in total alignment.
Yeah. Do these archetypes tie in with your money mapping personality, or is this a separate kind of thing?
Yes, that's exactly right. That's the money mapping.
Okay.
And I love that because again, it just gives us like archetypes are, just patterns of behavior that we as humans encompass across time and cultures. And they're, like the accumulator, the ruler, the connector, the nurturer. These are just very common ways of being. And what do those common ways of being look like with our money patterns? How does it express with our money? And it can be really helpful to just have that awareness about yourself. Again, it's like getting a peek underneath the water to see what's underneath on the iceberg. And then once we have that awareness and consciousness, we can do something about it. We can see what's serving us, what's not serving us, how we can lean into our strengths of that archetype to bring us forward into what it is that we're wanting for ourselves.
Yeah, that sounds so helpful. For me, I was just thinking, oh, if I knew my money archetype, then it would help me, to understand some of the decisions that I make, some of the behavior that I make, but also by understanding that there's other archetype available, it would broaden my understanding of actually not everything has to be done this way. And there are changes that can be made to reap the benefits and move me in a positive direction.
Yeah, that's right.
So you mentioned quite a number of different archetypes that came up. Would you be able to share details with us of one or two more of those, of the
Sure,
challenges that
absolutely.
might come up? Because that sounds fascinating.
Yeah, okay. Ruler just popped into mind. A lot of business owners are rulers. They love to build and create opportunity and make a positive impact. And a challenge with a ruler could be that they may overwork. That's kind of a common challenge for a ruler. And another archetype is connector. My top archetype is connector. So it's no surprise that as a financial advisor, I became attracted to becoming a coach too, because I love that aspect of the work. And when it comes to money, connectors have a really hard time as business owners stating their fees because it feels like that's going to muddy the relationship, right? It's not about the money, it's about the connection. Yeah. So for connectors, that can be a challenge. It has been a challenge for me in my lifetime. And nurturers are people who get a sense of their value from helping other people. And I think we've all seen nurturers who give so much that they either shoot themselves in the foot financially or they just feel resentful because they're not getting the same return.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting and totally makes sense from what you've just said. Do you think it's possible that somebody might have a little bit of all of these tendencies within them, or do you find that somebody tends to be more of like a dominant one or a dominant two?
Yep, that's a really good point. And when we do the assessment, we look at your top three archetypes because usually people will have scores in all of them, but they'll have a top three. And those are the ones that are the most dominant. And your top archetype is your kind of like your top archetype. And
Mhm.
then the archetypes that fall underneath it are what give it some personalization, I guess you could say. So, for example, you could have a ruler as a top archetype, and I'm using that because we talked about that already. And that could be it could their supporting archetypes could be nurturer and alchemist. We haven't talked about that. Alchemists are all about changing the world, and it's almost a matter of life or death. They have to do this. So that ruler might be building something that's going to have a positive social impact.
Mm.
So each archetype does have its supporting archetypes that give it that person their unique, kind of flavor of it.
Fab. So the money mapping personality practice, then you've talked about undertaking an assessment, finding out kind of your top three and your most dominant archetype. What would happen in the process after that then? How might somebody move forwards once they've got this information?
That's the next step is to identify in different areas of your life how that particular archetype is impacting you. And is it impacting you or holding you back in some way? And if so, where is it that you would like to be? And then you can start to uncover the specific beliefs and motivations that are common to that archetype that hold you back and decide, do I want to transform this one? Do I just want to leave it? It's completely up to you. But if you want to transform it, and then you can also choose other things that come really naturally for you, other beliefs and patterns that can support you. So it's a process of identifying, how am I being held back? Where do I want to go? What do I need to let go of or transform to make that happen? And what are the specific, how can I lean into my specific natural gifts and change very specific patterns or habits to get me to where I want to go?
Mhm. It sounds like a really transformative process to go through. And I can imagine somebody who's, inherited some wealth, it might be quite new to them, that actually to understand all of this and find a way forwards to really make the most of it could be so powerful and life-changing for them. It sounds wonderful.
Thank you. I think it can be liberating and surprising to people because it's fun. Like it's liberating. So I think people think when they initially talk to me that I'm sort of crazy when I say, no, this will be great because it can be such an intimidating topic for so many people.
Yeah, so it's great that you can make it enjoyable, fun, and more light-hearted and beneficial, definitely.
Mhm.
So we've mentioned that, your uniqueness really is about the financial planning and the holistic side to it. So when it comes to life goals, Melissa, why is it important to align your financial life with your goals?
Well, if you have goals that are rooted in something that you want and you align your financial goals, I think like all of the momentum is going forward. Like you're being pulled towards something that you want. And it just gives you so much more motivation. And when it gets hard, it gives you a lot more stamina to stick with it because it's something that you want.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that myself. Even when something's, difficult and challenging, when it's aligned with what I want, when it's helping me to move forwards towards that, then it's worth digging in and doing the work and making
Mhm.
those changes to get there. I love that word that you used, momentum, just helping to drive it forwards and make those changes. So fantastic. So, if somebody is listening to the podcast and they're thinking, okay, I want to boost my financial situation, perhaps they've inherited some money, perhaps they've not. I'll let you decide on the context. But what could be a first step for that person to consider who wants to boost their financial position?
Well, I'll answer that question from the standpoint of something that could relate to anyone, but not specifically inheritance.
Mhm.
And I would say the very first thing to do is to simply track your money. That's another thing that will give us a peek underneath the water so you can see
Mhm.
under, the bottom side of the iceberg. And knowing where your money is going is the very first step. Knowing what your expenses are is the very first step. Along with that, I would say whatever it is that you're doing, however it is that you're earning or money or managing your money, ensure that you're getting paid what you're worth for what you do. And then I think it's really important to make a plan. Where are you headed and how will you get there?
Yeah, they sound like practical steps. Yeah, as you say, that could apply to anyone. And I think when we don't track our money or we ignore it or bury our head in the sand from the situation that could be in front of us, I think that, I know for me, if I don't know my numbers, it can be quite worrying or anxiety producing. And I can feel like things are very much out of control.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when I know, what's coming in and out each month, for me from a personal perspective, but then also being self-employed, I have to know that from a business perspective as
Mm-hmm.
well. And I find that so helpful. And just occasionally when I get slightly behind with my numbers,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that out of controlness definitely
Yeah.
starts to creep in, and it's not a nice feeling. So I think, yeah, as a first step, that's a good reminder for me if I'm feeling like that, come back there
Mm-hmm.
and yeah,
Yeah.
check the numbers and see where I'm at.
Check the numbers. It's such a tangible thing. And like you said, we have control over it. We can track that. And what we track grows. So when we pay attention to that, it has the opportunity to grow.
Yeah, definitely. It's a bit like driving along and you've seen a car that you perhaps fancy buying, and then you keep
Mm-hmm.
seeing it everywhere, don't you? And yeah, tracking the numbers is hopefully gonna bring
Mm-hmm.
in that money and attract that too. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
wonderful. So Melissa, I understand that you have taught meditation. And I'm wondering if there's any links between meditation and someone's perhaps mental space around their finances.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The In meditation, what we do is develop the we develop awareness. So we notice our thoughts and what they are. So we have that awareness. And that will help us in money because when we start to notice those old habits or patterns that we're wanting to transform, we are able to make a different choice in that moment. And in meditation, we also develop the ability to command our attention. Oh, my mind was wandering. Not a problem. Come back. And you just develop that and you do it over and over and over again. And that muscle gets stronger of commanding your attention.
Mhm.
So as we're creating change and growth with our money, then when we're able to notice when we're going down the old road and then shift our awareness to the new path that we're wanting to take, it's incredibly helpful to do that.
Yeah. Is that something that you've brought into your wealth coaching at the moment, or is it something that you might consider in the future?
I generally don't do that in the wealth coaching context. However, there have been a few times when clients seemed like they were wanting to learn it, or it just came up in a way where it seemed really appropriate to bring it in at that point in time.
Mm. So like an organic way of bringing it in.
Exactly.
So coming back to inherited wealth, I imagine this change is a little bit like winning the lottery. Do you have the lottery over in the States where you might
We
have some
do.
numbers and you win a high sum of money?
Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
Okay. So if you've inherited money or you've won the lottery, all of a sudden you find yourself with a pot of money that you've never had before. So how might someone begin to navigate this change effectively?
The first thing I'd say about that is when you have a major event like that, like inheriting money or winning the lottery, it is it will throw you into a period of transition.
Mm-hmm.
All of the things that we once knew are no longer, and we don't quite know where we're going yet. So it's a really disorienting period of time. And for that reason, I think the number one most important thing you can do when that happens is to give yourself time. And we call it the decision free zone. Just allow yourself to get your bearings a little bit before making any big decisions. Don't sign anything if you don't know what you're signing. Take the time to learn about what you have. There may be certain things that you have to do that are time sensitive, and um, that's okay. That's what needs to happen, and get some good guidance from people who understand what you're going through for that. But other than that, just give yourself some time to adjust to your new circumstances.
See, it's really interesting to hear that perspective because I think sometimes as an outsider, if someone thinks, oh, you've inherited a lot of money, you've won the lottery, oh, it's amazing, your life's going to change. And you just think about all the positive scenarios of it. And actually, there's this flip side, isn't there, where it can be more challenging. Like you say, you have to then take some space. Sounds like a great advice, and then
Mm-hmm.
consider kind of the practicalities of it as well and what you need to do and how to move forwards. So I know there's plenty of stories. I can't think of a specific one off the top of my head, but of people winning the lottery and then literally just losing it all or using it in ways that really wasn't beneficial for them, and then perhaps it's actually made their quality of life worse rather than better. So I
Mm-hmm.
think having some guidance from somebody like yourself
Mm-hmm.
can be a really wonderful way to navigate that change.
Mm-hmm. I think that's very insightful. And I think of it, an analogy that just came to mind hearing you talk about that is like, if you haven't been prepared for that, and especially a lottery winner hasn't been prepared
Mm.
for that windfall, it's like giving the keys to a car to a 2-year-old and saying, have fun. It's so it does require some preparation. And I'd say that money magnifies whatever's there. So if you inherit money, whatever habits and patterns, if you haven't cleaned those up, those are going to be magnified in that
Mm.
situation.
Yeah, and I think this is probably where we can tie it in with a bit about self-compassion and how
Mm-hmm.
that can be important for people when they are facing these challenges and navigating new things. And I think sometimes wealth can lead to uncomfortable feelings and questions. For example, do I really deserve this? For some people, being wealthy or thinking that they're rich can be a bad thing. So, have you got any words of advice about how somebody might develop more self-compassion for themselves as a newfound wealthy person?
My advice around that would be to choose what experience you want to have, and that's easier said than done.
Mm.
And can you shift the narrative of I don't deserve to acceptance,
Mm.
just getting to a place of neutrality so that you can learn and grow. And when you can learn and grow, then you can develop confidence and a relationship with what you've inherited. And then it's like, okay, well, I don't know, I didn't earn it, but here it is now. What am I going to do about this opportunity in life?
Mm.
And that is truly an act of compassion.
Yeah, that shift to acceptance. You just saying that just made me feel calm, to be honest. So I can see how it could really transport somebody's experience to somewhere else. Are there any other examples that you might have of uncomfortable feelings or questions that come up that somebody might need to flip and consider in another way?
Yeah, and going back to my point about how wealth amplifies whatever habits and patterns are there.
Mhm.
So to the extent that the iceberg, the tip is teeny and there's a lot underneath, I feel like you can experience more uncomfortableness in that situation.
Mm.
And examples, just the one I was talking about earlier of the individual who has a really hard time um, allowing herself to enjoy this wealth or to even learn about it? And um, what are some other examples of how it impacts people?
Yeah, I can think of, somebody might be thinking, who am I to spend this money on a nice holiday? Who am I to stay at a five-star resort? Who am I to, yeah, invest in stocks and shares that I've never done before? I imagine that there's various different, all sorts of things that could come up for people.
Yeah, like the imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And again, I think that's why it's so important to go back to just like being in acceptance and allowing yourself the time to learn and grow, because through that process, you develop a relationship with it. So it's not like this foreign entity in your life. And then through that process, especially through the wealth coaching process, you get really clear on what your values are. And then you can decide, well, I can stay at this five-star resort if I want to, I can afford it. But do I want to? Is that what's important to me?
Yeah, it's coming back to that alignment, isn't it? Like you were saying
Mm-hmm.
about how your career and your personal life is really aligned, and yeah, coming back to someone's own values and what they actually want to spend it on. And I think when I spend money on things that I'm more aligned with, I feel so much better about it. I'm not thinking, was that a good decision, or regretting it, or anything
Mm-hmm.
else. It's like, yeah, that's the right choice. Let's go in that direction.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. So if you're doing the best you can, spending in alignment the best you can, and you do something and you fall into self-doubt a little bit, like that's a good time to question, okay, what's up with that? What could be going on for me right now? What's out of alignment?
Mm. Yeah, so true. So, when it comes to gaining newfound wealth, I imagine that it can affect people's relationships quite a lot, whether that's relationships that they're already currently in with family and friends, or new people that they're meeting. It comes back, I guess, to this Anna, can't say the word, Anna, and not being anonymous,
Mm-hmm.
with your kind of wealth information, or not with people that we spoke about at the beginning. Are there any examples that you can think of where it's affected people's relationships in a good way, or a perhaps not so good way?
It's it's interesting that you said that, because when I first heard the question, I was thinking of all of the not good ways, and I usually focus on the good ways, but I think it can really impact relationships, especially if you have a partner and or you're married, and that inheritance can really throw off the power dynamics,
Mm,
especially if the inheritor is a woman. And I tend to work with a lot of women inheritors, and it's really challenging for their husbands, because what we're told is the man provides and does this kind of thing. So it can be really emasculating for them.
that's
And working through that can be challenging. It's really difficult.
Yeah, I imagine all of a sudden if that just gets thrown in there, and maybe a couple have been together for say 20 years, and the dynamics have always been a certain way, they've always managed their finances in a particular way, and then all of a sudden this is just a
Mm-hmm.
huge change, isn't it?
It's a huge change. Yeah.
Lovely. So, Melissa, where can people keep in touch with you or find out more about your unique blend of finance and holistic services?
You can visit my website called wayintowealth.com. And that's WAYINTOWEALTH.com, wayintowealth.com. And that's actually the website for my wealth coaching program that I offer.
Okay, what's your program called, Melissa?
Way into wealth.
Way into Wealth.
Yep.
Fantastic. So people can go on there and find out more details.
Yes.
I'll pop the link for that in the show notes as well, so that the listeners can go straight through and have a look. Are you on any social media at all? Where could people get in touch or follow you?
I'm on LinkedIn, and it's Melissa Hoyer on LinkedIn. And we are building our YouTube channel. So stay tuned. The YouTube channel is under the name of the company where I work called The Wealth Conservancy.
Sounds like that'll be a interesting resource to look out for then. Is that perhaps going to be open, the YouTube channel open later this year?
It is already open. We have a few things on there and we'll just keep adding to it. So right now you can binge in about a half an hour. And maybe at the end of the year, you can binge for like 2 hours. We'll see. That's the goal.
Yeah. So nice. It's something that's developing over time.
Yes.
So final question then Melissa, thinking about your own well-being, what helps you to stay balanced in today's ever busy, hectic world?
I think that is the number one most important question right now. And what helps me is I think of it as regulating my nervous system, but staying calm. And when I'm not feeling calm, doing whatever tool, and we all have our tools, whether it's meditation or breathing or movement or who knows what, just to come back and feeling calm. Throughout the day, just proactively, I'll take 5 minutes to just recenter.
Mm-hmm.
And I do go light on the news. I know what I need to know, and I don't go down a lot of rabbit holes.
Yeah, that sounds like a great lifestyle and practices. I love the nervous system, so that's really interesting that you mentioned that. And like you say, within 5 minutes, you really can do a bit of a reset and change how you
Mm-hmm.
feel, and
Mm-hmm.
definitely feel more calmer because I think everybody's stress levels these days with the pace of everything
Mm-hmm.
can definitely be higher than what we would ideally like it to be.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I think we can be the most service on this planet when we're feeling calm and we're coming from that place.
Yeah, definitely. It helps with everything, doesn't it? Including
Mm-hmm.
decision making, which could
Mm-hmm.
include decisions around wealth.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that's it from me, Melissa. Is there anything else that you would like to add before we go?
Thank you so much for having me. This has been such a fun conversation. I hope your listeners like this topic about money. And thank you so much. It's been a joy.
Oh, well, thank you so much for spending some of your morning with me, Melissa. It was really enjoyable conversation. And yeah, happy to bring the topics of finance to the Beautifully Balanced podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.